Hey everyone, welcome back to Crush It with Confidence episode 7. If you're here live, hashtag live. If you're here for the replay, hashtag replay. Let us know you can see and hear us. Just because, you know, I've had this incident 2 weeks ago where apparently that wasn't the case. And it makes for very hard interviewing if you can only hear what one person is saying.
Indeed.
So as always, remember to ask questions, share your thoughts, share your stories. Let us know if you're having any aha moments. So if there's something that we're talking about and you're thinking, oh, it's like, yeah, I really have to pay more attention to that. Let us know what that is. It's always really good because then we can provide more things, ask more questions, and talk about this a little bit more in detail. So we're continuing with Juggling June, and we're talking about juggling all the things that we have to do all the time. And I was really excited when we came up with the topics for this month, and I was like, right, I have to talk to Allie about this because we had the chance to meet in person at our mastermind, and she was talking about, she was painting this glorious picture about how she's working like 20 hours a week, and this is my hard and fast rule. Like, okay, you know, I know that I bet there's the odd time where it doesn't fit into 20 hours, but like if you're aiming for that, that is like, okay, awesome. But I was like, I need to know how to do that because that's why I said I should have a sticky note. I should have a sticky note that says guilty. But I'm literally guilty of working way too much. And I don't pay attention to how much I actually work because I squeeze it in here and there and then it adds up to an awful lot. So when I heard that, I was like, yeah, right. Now that we're talking about juggling all the things, I think I have to find out how that works. So, yeah, so with all of that said, over to Allie. Allie, would you like to introduce yourself and tell people more about who you are and what you do right now?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name's Allie Bjerk. I live in Minnesota in the United States, and I am a success and business coach and also a digital marketing strategist. So my background started out with digital marketing, actually doing all the things digital. So social media, SEO, website design, everything, blogging. I was spreading myself really, really thin, trying to offer all of the different things as like a one-woman shop. And that's been about 5 years ago since I started doing my own thing. But before that, I was working for a marketing agency, and I was working 50 or 60 hours a week for this agency as an SEO manager. I was managing 40 clients myself, doing all of their SEO. And if you've done SEO before, you know it's not a very fun task. And fast forward a little bit from when I started at the job, my first child was born. He's now almost 7, to put it in perspective. But it's like my time, the way I perceive time completely shifted when my son was born. And it was the amount that I was being paid per hour was no longer worth it to me to be away from him, plus adding on what I was paying for full-time plus daycare. Yeah. It just wasn't worth it anymore. And I mean, I think at that point I was being paid like $12 or $13 per hour, which, you know, it was a very entry level job, and it just stopped being worth it. So I was desperate to try to come up with a way to not be in that situation anymore. And I just started freelancing a little bit by little bit, and it actually became a lot easier to find clients than I thought it would be. But I very quickly fell into the hustle where I still wasn't working for very much per hour. I was still charging hourly. I was getting all of the clients that I could. And instead of focusing on like a really good experience for my clients, I was just always thinking about, I need another client. I need to make more money. I need to add the retainers. I need to, you know, do all the things. And by working on a retainer, I was basically just becoming a slave, as our coach would say. Like, if you're on a retainer, they can contact you at any point for anything that they want. And I was stacking the retainers, and it got to a point where, like, I was barely talking to my husband. I was staying home to be present with my child, and then I was still looking for daycare options for him because now I was so booked out on my own that I couldn't even handle watching him. And I just came to this point where, like, I was almost ready to just either give up on my business or give up on my marriage, and you know, decided that the marriage was going to stick and I was going to figure out a different way to operate.
I think that was a good choice, right?
Yes, absolutely made the right choice. So the first thing that I realized in figuring out I wanted to work less was just realizing what my values were. And people always talk about this work-life balance, and it's not that, you know, there's a right way or a wrong way to do it. It's when it starts feeling out of balance for you. Yeah. So like you mentioned, you feel like you're working all the time, but maybe that's how you like to operate. does it feel in alignment for how you want to show up for your life, or does it feel like too much?
Yeah, I mean, if I could work 24 hours a day, I would quite like to do that. Like, I think sleep is completely overrated, and I would love to. And I know sometimes I'll say to people, oh, well, you could just stay up a bit later and try and do it then. But I've realized over time that that's not how everyone operates. So, and that's where it comes back to our perspective and doing what's right for us, and not looking at what someone else is doing and then trying to copy exactly what they're doing, because it might not align with how you want to work. And
yeah, exactly. Maybe you'd be bored out of your mind if you were only working 20 hours a week. Right? So, part of it's knowing what your values are, and if you can reverse engineer your way into knowing what that looks like, maybe that's 20 hours a week, maybe that's, 15 hours a day. Hopefully not, because I feel like, mentally, I know I would burn out at that point, but some people just run at a higher frequency than others,
Yeah. And how did you, so when you were in that situation where you had all these retainers, it always reminds me of that Placebo song from years ago, Slave to the Wage, but it's like you are still a slave to the wage, right? It's just that this time it's someone else paying you that wage. It's not an employer, but you are actually no better off, right? You are still under pressure. You still have to be at your desk working a certain number of hours, and that freedom that we all wanted, retainers don't really bring you that. Like,
no.
So how did you get the clarity to start working your way out of that? Because I know plenty of us fall into that trap that we are trading time for money, selling ourselves for a certain number of hours. And what were your steps to actually realize that was the problem, and then come up with a plan of action? Because this pays your bills, right? It's really hard to let go of. So yeah, what do we do if we want to get out of that?
It was definitely a process, and I want to say it was a quick process, but it wasn't. It was probably, my business has been evolving for probably the last 5 years now. And I slowly started realizing that being a work at home mom, I didn't have, not to reduce myself to that, because I feel like that term is so much more than just being a work at home mom, but, once I realized that I only had a set number of hours that I could actually deliver valuable content or valuable services deliverables to the clients, it made me start thinking about everything I was trying to do. Like, I couldn't be a WordPress expert, a Facebook social media expert, Facebook ad specialist, sales funnel, all of the things. Like, there's no way that I had the brain power to be up all night with 3 kids and then try to know everything about everything and continually educate myself on all the different topics. So the first thing that I realized is, like, I really need to do what I tell my clients to do, and I need to niche down. So probably about 1.5 years ago, I just moved into only offering Facebook ads and sales funnels. Actually, only Facebook ads at first. So I said I'm only a Facebook ad strategist. But then clients started coming to me, and I realized, okay, like, you can't have one without the other, because if you're running ads for a funnel that's not functioning, then you look bad as the ad strategist. So then I decided, okay, I can branch out into offering 2 things. So I did the ads and then the funnels. And because I started to get really comfortable in that niche, in that realm, like it took a long time to build my confidence up in what I could deliver for clients and the experience that I was giving to them. So gradually, basically every proposal that I sent out, I was increasing my price a little by little. Some people say, like, oh, triple your price, quadruple your price, but you have to know your confidence too. Like, if you don't feel in alignment with doing that, then that's going to show in your sales call. And so little by little, I started increasing my price, which meant I could take on less clients. And because I was offering very specific services, I started really understanding exactly what they needed. So instead of saying, I will do anything you want for the month, for 30 days, you can call me anytime, you can Boxer me, Slack me, whatever it was. I stopped giving them full access because I knew what they needed for that month. So I was able to create packages and say, like, okay, you get this many ad campaigns, this type of audience. I was able to customize the checklist and the project so that then I could pitch more of an a la carte type proposal versus just saying, I think the retainer was kind of because I didn't know what they would need.
Yeah.
So once I started understanding this is exactly what you need within the month. I had confidence in telling them, you do this, you'll get this result. That completely changed the game.
And I do think, I know there's a lot of people out there teaching right now, like even if you're starting in your business, to never offer hourly prices and to never offer retainers and to just not touch it. But for me, if I had started trying to put together any kind of packages when I was starting out, I would have been seriously underpaid with every piece of work that we delivered, because I had no idea how long it would take, what complications we were going to run into.
Right.
It didn't factor in how difficult the client was going to be, because I didn't have that gut feeling. You know, when you're a service provider, you know, over time you kind of get that gut feeling where you're like, I'm not really sure this is my ideal person to work with. But when you don't know any of that, if I'd quoted for a project, I would have worked 3 times as much as what I quoted for, because I had low confidence in what I could do, combined with no idea of how long it would take and no understanding of what that person would be like as a client that you're delivering work to. So I think it's still not a bad place to start, but you do hit a point when you're like, okay, I think now is the time when I have to start moving out of this, because it's affecting me and how I work.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't want to by blanket say that I believe that hourly pricing is horrific and you should never do it, or that retainers, you should never do them. But I think it's once you get to a certain point, I think you need to look for a way out. And it's like you said, it takes a bit of time, because it's a process that you go through, and it doesn't happen overnight. So if you start getting annoyed with the business that you built,
change it.
Start now to change it, because it's going to take a bit of time. So don't wait for shit to hit the fan and be like, hey, like I'm now in the total doo-doo, so now I have a big problem. So that's kind of the way to do it.
Exactly. And I think we're in the same mastermind with a brilliant woman. And I think investing in mentorship or coaching, like that can cut out a lot of that learning curve too. Yeah. Because I know we've gained systems from her that would have taken months to build out.
Yeah.
So I think finding a mentor that you trust, or somebody that you can follow that you trust to share their processes or their experiences, I mean, that can like cut the learning curve by like 80%, I'd say, if not more.
Yeah. And it's like, it's about not watching. I think that's also something that we were talking about a lot, but it's about not watching 50 different people, because like I was talking to her and I thought, right, this is the kind of business that I think I want to have. So I think I should follow that person. There's no point if I follow somebody else that has a completely different outlook on life to how I work, and they have a completely different type of business. And it makes it so much more difficult to implement what they're talking about, because it has no reflection for, you know, on what you're doing and on your business. So finding the right person to follow is definitely really, really, really important. And just having one
and
person.
Shutting everyone else out too. Because there's so many contradicting methods out there that if you hear one person say, okay, build your business this way, and then another person say, do it this way, then your brain just, you know, it's like, what do I do? And then you just stay stuck because you don't know which direction to go.
Yeah, and a prime example with that is webinars.
Yeah.
How do you do a webinar? So if you're looking at how to do a webinar that sells, there's a few different people that have great success with teaching that, but their systems that they're teaching are actually fairly different. And then sometimes people try and like take a bit from one and take a bit from the other, but their system works if implemented exactly as it comes out the box. It works. Don't pick and mix.
Yeah.
If you start like taking a bit of this and taking a bit of that, and then sticking this in the middle of the pitch, and then putting this here, and then leaving that off, suddenly you end up with this mashed potato that doesn't sell anything. So that's literally what it's like. It's just throw ingredients in, mash them up a bit, and in the end, like nothing comes out of it. So cutting out that noise is going to be hugely beneficial to actually making it work. So you touched on having to keep yourself up to date and having to keep yourself educated, right? And that's a large part of what we do, because particularly with ads and anything to do with Facebook, to be honest, it's like, it kind of changes every other day. I'm like, I open my app and I'm like, what's this button? Like I've never seen this before. It works the same on the back end. So how do you make sure that you actually keep yourself up to date and fit that in your work time, and how do you plan out how much time you spend on it?
Yeah, I do a lot of time blocking. Or that's one thing I'm starting to work on, because I'm, you know how they have like type A personality, type B personality. If there was a type C, I would be that person. I'm just a big idea person. Like, I really like to be creative, but not have to come up with the checklist and the, you know, the actual tasks that get done. So I've hired people that help me stay on task. I have an amazing OBM who has said, Allie, you need to start doing time blocking. So now I know, like, I have a CEO day is what, you know, what I call it, CEO day, where I work on things for my own business. I work on going through courses that I've purchased and just make sure that I'm doing some of the self-development and business development. Otherwise, it's, you know, that whole tale of the shoe cobbler whose children didn't have any shoes. Like, as marketers, we are so guilty of that. Like, it's such a hard task to work on everyone else's stuff and then find time to do ours too. So scheduling it in and making sure that it actually happens, and treating my business and my brain as if I were a client, and like taking the time to wake up and journal in the morning just to set my intentions up for the day. Like that was something that was so foreign to me a year ago. I was like, what does it mean to set my intentions? Like, that sounds really weird. But now I can barely go through a day without doing it.
Yeah.
So I think knowing what I want to accomplish that day, how I want to show up for myself, for my business, my clients, my kids, and just staying really focused on that. And it's like Tony Robbins, you weren't at Funnel Hacking Live, right? So, I know, I'm sorry, I shouldn't even say that.
I had terrible FOMO. No, you know what? Actually, sometimes missing something is a good thing, because you watch everyone else having like an amazing experience and you're like, I'm missing out on this. I'm going to do everything under the sun that I can do to never miss out on that again. So, you know, everything's an experience that you learn from.
Yeah, FOMO. So next year you'll be there. So when Tony Robbins was speaking this year, he said something, and of course he like drops the F-bomb, so I'm not going to do that right now. But he says like, I effing created Tony Robbins, right? Like he's saying that he made himself to be who he is. He did put in the education, put in the work, the training. So he created the persona that he is. He decided what he wanted to look like, and not look like, but what he wanted his life to look like, and he became that person. So like, part of it, if you feel like you're working too much, or you only want to work 20 hours a week, it's just about actually figuring out what you want your life to look like. And once you backfill the time, so if you say like, okay, I want to volunteer in my child's classroom, I want to work out 2 hours a day, I want to Netflix and chill with my husband at night, like you start figuring out what pieces are really valuable to you, and then you backfill and say like, okay, well, I guess that only leaves 20 hours for my business when I want to have all these other pieces in my life. So then that needs to look like figuring out what your income, what you want it to be. And if that's $10,000 a month, okay, well, what kind of packages do you need to create in order to work 20 hours a week and still hit that number?
And then how many of those do I need to sell? Like, we always talk about goal setting, and sometimes we get so big with our goal setting that we forget about the actual practical side of it. So at the end of the month, you have rent to pay normally, or if you have a mortgage to pay if you own your place. So that money's got to be there, right? So particularly when you're an idea person, and I'm sure you get that, you get really hyped up about something, and then somebody else has to go, hold on. Just like, remember, you have to pay your rent at the end of the month. So your target should be to make this money appear. But so many of us forget about actually breaking down how much we need to sell. And then we forget about selling, and then we realize it's like 2 weeks away from the next project finishing, and we haven't actually booked anything else. So maybe we should get moving on that one. So that's where your journaling and your daily reflection on what you're actually wanting to do helps as well, because you can refocus on, right, how do I want to show up today? How can I reach new people? Or if you feel like you haven't found your people, where do I need to go? Like, what do I need to create to bring them to me? But yeah, if we're so in the hustle of every day, I think we forget. Like, it's just that busyness of life takes over, you know, children thrown up somewhere overnight, gotta do this, have to
Amen.
run here, client project needs finishing, put this here, and suddenly the day is gone.
Yeah.
So, you said that you're an idea person. I get it. Same personality type that likes to have loads of ideas. So what do you do about all of those? When something
make sure I have a team that like holds me back or complements the actual getting done of the ideas. You know, like having a good team that can implement, which of course then that adds on to how much you need to make each month so that you can pay your team and pay your rent. But just knowing that this team member is going to make sure I finish the project, or maybe I do have to work at night to keep up. Because, I mean, it's definitely a process, and it's not foolproof in that it's only ever 20 hours per week. Sometimes I do work at night. Like last night, I was so excited to talk to you, I couldn't sleep. So I got up and worked. So it's not like a hard, fast rule that it's only 20 hours, but I know for the goals that I have for myself and personal development and just family, that's about all I have room for generally. Otherwise, my mental health starts suffering, my self-care starts going downhill, and you know, it's just such a balancing act that it's really important to be intentional with how you're spending your time and realizing when you're starting to slip in one of those areas. It's when that guilt feeling starts coming up, like, oh, I'm working too much, or I just missed, you know, I have to reschedule this birthday party because I have a work appointment or something. Like you start feeling yourself slipping more into what's not in alignment with how you want to show up for yourself or your life. And then you have to rein it back in and figure out, okay, what do I need to change here? What do I need to raise my prices again so that I can keep up? Or do I need to maybe change the services that I'm offering? Like I've recently started offering more coaching than the done for you services, because I've realized that's more of what lights me up and how I can show up more fully for my clients, and they get a better experience. I'm happier, they're happier. And, you know, then I'm not working on the details of a project. So I think there's a lot to say for knowing what type of services you want to offer too. And then back to the confidence piece, knowing that you can build your business in whichever manner you'd like. So if you want to coach, go coach. or if you want to, you know, just do masterminds with clients, then just go create the offer and find the people. I mean, easier said than done, but anything is possible with your business.
I think that's the beauty of it, right? Like, I don't even know who was saying, how can I give myself a pay rise today? I can't remember who was saying that. If it was like, was it a Russell Brunson thing? I don't recall.
Maybe.
I don't know. It came across somewhere, but it was like starting every day thinking, right, how can I give myself a pay rise today? Like, you know, what can I do today to make my life easier? And I think it comes back to time. And appreciating time, right? So if you don't have enough money, you can go make more of it, but you can't make more time appear. Time is just ticking away on its own, and we have to make sure we make the best, you know, the best use of the time that we do have. So
yeah, definitely.
Did you ever feel, I don't know, I think this might be a bit different personality kind of thing, but did you ever feel like you want to do so much more than you're doing right now?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there are days where I almost feel obsessive about my business, and like I might be with the kids, but my wheels are turning. Like, oh, I need to create this opt-in, or I need to create this package, or finish the webinar. But I have to work really, really hard to just shut that off, and to the point of I have an Apple Watch, and I recently decided to replace it with like one of those crystal bracelets that like basically tells me to be intentional or be present, because you know when your wrist is buzzing like every 30 seconds when you're getting that's a lot, but when it's frequently going off that someone wants your attention online, or you know a client's just emailed you or sent you a Voxer or something, then it takes so much away from just my headspace of like, okay, this is family time, or this is time with my husband. So I'm trying to remove the distractions if I can, and like leaving my phone upstairs plugged in, just so I just have to be plugged into the moment instead of thinking about what else I need to do. Because if I'm scrolling Facebook, then all of a sudden I'm going into the whole comparisonitis thing. And then I get even worse on like, oh, I should be doing this, or I need to do this. So also being really focused on removing the word should and need from my vocabulary too, because that's just not healthy for me to be looking at other people and like, oh, I should do that, or oh, I really need to do this instead. So being more focused on how I talk to myself too, and even looking inside saying, well, why do I feel like I need to be working more? What's missing, or what piece of me would that fulfill that I don't have right now? You know, what am I not getting from my husband or getting from my kids that I feel like my business would give me?
I like that. That's a nice way of looking at it. Like,
yeah.
Because at the end of the day, it's like our businesses, they're a tool, right? They're a tool that helps us to express ourselves, to serve our people, to make money, to pay the bills. They're a tool in any which way that a job would be too. Just that that tool isn't directed by somebody else, but that's the function of it. And sometimes, like, we do get a little bit obsessed. Like, I definitely know for sure I get a little bit obsessed. I'm like, you know, I totally like have to do this now, and I desperately want to get this done, and it can leave you very frustrated. And then I feel like I'm not enjoying the moment. I feel like I'm just like, oh, I would rather be somewhere else right now than be stacking up Duplos on the floor.
Yeah.
Like,
right.
Like this idea it's just caught my attention. So, unplugging is definitely the only way to do it. Like, I've started leaving my laptop upstairs in the evenings so that I don't go back to it, because I don't even know what happens. It was lying there 1 second, and then
all of a sudden it was open and I was working.
Shoot, how did that happen right now? And then suddenly it's an hour and a half later, and I'm like, what do you mean we have to go to bed, honey? He's like, I was just getting into what I was doing here.
Right.
So yeah, time just really wastes away like that too. Comparisonitis. That's a bad thing, but it happens to all of us. Do you ever feel like you were comparing yourselves to other mums too? Yeah,
like that part's hard. That's been a battle, because I'm not a stay-at-home mom. I'm not a working mom. I'm somewhere in the messy middle where it's completely chaotic, and you know, I can try to go to the play dates, and I'm like, oh, I got to get home by 1. I have a call, where it's like I'm trying to piece in the mom stuff with the work stuff, or the working moms are like, oh, she doesn't have a real job. She just plays on the computer. You know, it's like the whole judgment thing too is something that I've had to completely just shut down and stop caring about and just do me. Because, I mean, whenever what I've told myself is that if somebody is judging me, it's because they're trying to make themselves feel better about their situation. So a stay-at-home mom might feel weird that they're not working, or feel guilty, or, you know, all the different mix of emotions. And a working mom might feel bad that they're not staying home. So we're going to feel that mom guilt no matter what, because we just want to do the best for our kids. So even if we're working at home, we might feel like, oh, we're spending too much time on the laptop, or they've watched too many episodes on the iPad or whatever. So I think it's just giving ourselves grace and knowing that what works for us might not work for somebody else, and it doesn't matter what anybody else is doing.
Yeah. It's hard though, right? When
That's been a journey, yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
I was saying, I don't know if it was last week or I mentioned it, I think it was when I was talking to Jessica last week, and we were saying, I went to a few of the play groups, and I'm like, I feel like the odd one out here. Yeah. Like, I'm not at home, I have other things to think about other than when, you know, how early my baby started to clap, and I'm like, right. I'm like, oh, this is fabulous. So I've really struggled with finding like people in real life that understand this kind of messy situation. And it's like you're saying, I have a call. That's like my top number one reason why I can't do something sometimes. So like, I have a call at 8:30 p.m. tonight, so can we please make sure that we've had dinner by then, because I need to get back on the laptop after that. And my other half is literally like, and I'm like, but I can't help it. I have limited hours in the day to get on the phone. So sometimes if it's urgent, it has to be at night. There's just, you know, there's no other way. Right now, this is the messy, neither here nor there kind of situation. So they're very hard to handle. So,
but I think having boundaries and having those expectations set up with your partner or, you know, your kids or even yourself, and saying, this is what I'm doing right now, and this is the benefit of me getting on a call at 8:30 at night. So it's always like a reframe in our brain of, it's how we think about it or how we talk to ourselves or how we frame it to our spouse. Like, I'm doing this so that we can have this, you know. It's like, that's the hardest part of the whole like balance thing, is that sometimes the balance is going to be like this. Sometimes it's always either 30% and 70% or 60 and 40, but it's always going to equal 100. You only have 24 hours in a day. Yeah. So it's just knowing how you're spending your time and how you feel about how you're spending your time.
Yeah. And this is something that we were all laughing about, because we're talking about booking the mastermind.
Yeah.
Everyone comes out the closet and is like, oh, well, I didn't tell my other half that I'm coming here.
Yeah.
And I was like, nobody knows hard. That I'm doing this. Nobody knows how much money I paid for that. Nobody, you know, it's like we're all like hiding something. And I was like, yeah, I've got this all planned out. I'm totally going to sell it to him. Like, so I'm planning my sales pitch to sell, to sell his dad how I'm going to be away for 5 days and leave him unattended with the 8-month-old infant at home. I was like, I'm going to have to like draw a right sales pitch here to make that happen. But I was like, we will do it, right? So has your husband always been supportive? When you said, hey, you know what? I don't want to go to my job anymore. I'm going to do my own thing. What was his reaction?
I think he was a little scared. I mean, he's the money guy. He's like the numbers person, where he's got the full-time job. He pays bills. You know, like, he's actually the one who sets up the budgets and the accounting and everything. And honestly, the biggest change that we made that helped our relationship is we separated my business account from our personal account. Because when I first started, I would just put whatever I got, like any PayPal transfer I could, I'd throw it into our personal account, which I know now after working with a bookkeeper and an accountant, like, that was bad, very bad. But when I was first starting, that's all I did. So anything that came in, it was like, okay, into our account. So he never knew if it was going to be, you know, whatever, $2,000 that month or $500 that month. But now I've put myself on a salary, so he knows every 2 weeks, this is how much is getting deposited in our account. And the rest of it, like, he doesn't have to know. And I think just that whole empowering piece of like, this is my business. I'm a grown up. I'm a grown woman. I can handle my finances for my business.
Yes.
And you know that just like any other job, I will have a paycheck in the account on the 7th and the 21st of every month.
Yeah.
Essentially. Fingers crossed. but I mean, it also like, it puts that pressure on as a business owner too, of like, I need to keep showing up because I need to pay myself on these days, and I need to pay my team, and I need to make sure that I can pay for my mastermind or my tools. You know, it's like, you know, that once, it's almost like, if your brain can handle it, if you back yourself into a corner, you know that you're going to perform because you have to. Like, you don't have a choice. You've got bills to pay. You've got a family to take care of. You know that the clients are abundant as long as you show up.
Yeah, I think that's sometimes when we still have a job, or we have the main breadwinner in the house, and, you know, work isn't essential, it can be quite hard to like make it happen and make the people appear. Because we have that security blanket, right? So that's why when I started, after 6 months of starting the business, I had to quit my job. I just had to do it. I wasn't quite making the right amount of money just yet to pay all the bills, but I was so stressed, and I worked, you know, it was a full-time job, so 40 hours plus overtime, plus traveling there and back, plus business. So for like 6 months, I said no to every activity on the weekends, because I was just like, whatever, just crack on with it now. We just got to do it. And then I thought, no, I have to quit my job. Like, I just have to. But I knew I could make it happen. Like, I had faith from day one that if I have the time and I commit myself to it, like, there's no other way, I'll make it happen. So sometimes people say, oh, you know, my husband lost his job and I'm so worried, but I'm just going to try and make it happen. You will.
Yeah.
Like, you will feed the kids at the end of the month.
Absolutely.
There's never been another way.
Jumping without the safety net, right? You know that your parachute's going to open, or that saying of burn the boats. Like, if you don't have an excuse, you're going to find a way to make it happen.
Yeah. So, while I never encourage that, I also don't encourage people that to find out that you're pregnant like 2 weeks after you quit your job. That's generally a stupid thing to do.
Yeah. But is that how it happened for you?
That is completely how it happened.
Oh my gosh.
I was like,
it's an added challenge.
I'm going to resign. And then I thought, oh, well, I have loads of annual leave to take, so we're just going to go on holiday. And then I came back and I was like,
now what?
Yeah, okay, now we definitely better make this work, because I won't even have the security of being able to go to another job. So that security, that backup plan that I had, that wasn't going to be available for very much longer. So I was like, okay, yeah, let's just make it work. But sometimes that gives you the push that you need, right? So you just go, okay, I'm just going to make this happen now because I have to. So
Well, and I think even just deciding, like, this is what it's going to look like, this is how it's going to happen. I don't go woo-woo very often, but it's that whole, the whole manifesting concept is that you figure out what you want your life to look like, and then your brain is going to figure out how to make that happen.
Yeah.
So, like, if you decide that you want to manifest pizza for dinner, your brain is going to figure out a way, like, okay, I can order it, I can walk down the street to find it. Like, your brain will literally just spin the wheels until you find a way to make the thing happen that you want to happen. If you want a $10,000 month, you're going to figure out, okay, I need 3 clients at $3,300, and you're going to find them.
Yeah, and until you make that decision, nothing is going to happen. Absolutely nothing. Like, people, and this is like, I'm also like, I'm not particularly woo, but there's just certain things that happen when you make a decision. It's like, it's like something here's the fact that, oh, hang on, did someone's penny just drop over there as to how much money that they need to make? Okay, let's help them do it. And then suddenly you have all these opportunities coming your way. And I know exactly, whenever I wrote a 90-day plan for a period of time, and I had specific numbers on there, so this is the amount of money that I'm going to make in the next 90 days. And these are the 3 things that I'm going to focus on to get there. Whenever I did that, I made more money than what was on that piece of paper. Whenever I forgot or I made excuses for not writing down my goals or whatever, life just kind of came along, I didn't. Like, every single time. So people are so afraid about writing down goals. Like, they're like, oh, but if I write them down these goals, and what if I don't meet them? And I'm like, well, what if? But I know that they will, and I know that they will do more than that.
Mm-hmm.
So there's something about sitting down and just writing it down and not letting things like stop you along the way, because it just like, I don't know, it's like you made a commitment and here it is. Like, what, you asked for this? No problem, there you go. Like, here's your people. So yeah. I want to ask you about hiring a team, because that's something I'm really passionate about. I don't think we accomplish very much on our own for very long. I haven't. How did you decide, when did you decide that, hey, the way forward is for me to not be on my own anymore?
I think after I realized that I was my own bottleneck in my business, and realized how much more I could be doing if I just showed up as the face of my business, and realizing how my brain works, and knowing that that's not a bad thing, and it's not a negative about how I run a business. It's just that I need to find backup for the areas that are not my strongest. So knowing that systems are not my thing, then I need to find someone that can help me create systems and actually implement them. And then now knowing that I much prefer to coach than do all of the done for you services, finding a team that can help me set up the ads and set up the funnels, and just knowing that it's okay to ask for help too, I think, because I used to have a badge of honor, like, well, I'm a solopreneur, I do it all, and then realized that I didn't start making $10,000 per month until I actually had a team that I wasn't holding myself back anymore. Because I think I always had the fear in the back of my mind of like, what if I get too busy, or what if I get overwhelmed, or what if I say I can do something that I can't do?
Yeah.
And so I was purposely holding myself back a little bit and not actually going out and selling, because I had that fear of failure, that I would rather just not sell at all than sell something that I couldn't do a good job delivering.
Yeah.
So once I had strong systems in place and had a team in place that I trusted, then it was just like, all right, well, I can just show up and sell the things that I know how to sell, and then trust my team to help me get the things done.
Yeah. I think it relieves so much pressure off you as well, because I know so many of us, and I know a lot of our clients are still in the same boat, that they are doing all the things, and even if they're handing like small bits over to like get help with, the amount of stuff that they could achieve, like if they just focused on the one thing that they need to be doing and left someone else to handle all the rest.
Exactly.
It like that difference is massive, and it takes the pressure off you. Like, I mean, when I found out I was pregnant, all was good for about 3 weeks, and then I felt like I was dying. Like, I just had like a 6 weeks or so where all that I could go near was bread, cheese, and tomatoes. And
oh my gosh,
I like eating actual food, not baguette with cheese and tomato on top of it. I couldn't leave the house because of all the smells. I was my whole head was spinning. Like every time I looked at a screen for more than 2 minutes, it was like the world was just like sliding around me. I felt terrible. What happens if you are the one person doing all the work in your business and something happens and you suddenly cannot do it?
No income.
No income. People will ask for a refund.
Yeah.
So it's not just that you don't have any more money coming in, it's the refund that's going to kill you. Because if you just have to refund someone on a 10K project, that's already paid part of your rent, because that's how life works, because you were expecting to deliver on that.
Right. Yeah.
No way, Jose. Like that's not going to work. So that team gives you the security that if something was to happen, this is like your health insurance. That's what I keep saying. I'm like, this is my business health insurance. I have somebody else that could take over. I even had someone on a discovery call. I'm just thinking, I had someone on a discovery call ask the other day, what would happen if I got hit by a bus? I'm like, thanks.
Right. You had a client ask you that?
Yeah, I was on a discovery call and she was like, not like I'm predicting anything like that to happen, but
yeah.
I was like,
oh my goodness.
I hope not, but it just makes me review my
Are you now working with that client?
No, I'm not, funnily enough.
Yeah. Right. I'd be like,
I was like,
warning sign. No, thank you.
It's a bit of a bad example. I'm like,
yeah.
Okay, well,
that goes back to like the kind of people you work with too, and knowing if somebody's going to bug you at midnight, or send messages or try to contact you at midnight, you can kind of pre-qualify some of that when you're interviewing clients.
Yeah. I had that. Holiday in Austria, 2:00 in the morning, the phone rings. I'm like, I don't think I should be answering this right now. I think I've had too much to drink to be answering my phone. So I'm like, I'm just going to put this down. But it just doesn't happen. So how did you decide who was the first person that you would have to get on board?
I looked at what my biggest pain points were and needs of my clients. So if I was really struggling to deliver a Facebook ad campaign report or something, or I noticed consistently that was an area where I wasn't getting the reports out on time, that was the first position I filled, is I need someone to help me get this deliverable out. And I also hired a virtual assistant around that same time, just saying there are little pieces of tech and admin that I need help with in order to be able to, I guess, train the team member in better. Yeah. So a VA and an ads assistant came at the same time. Not long after, I brought on a sales funnel building person. Yeah. And then I brought on an OBM to help me just to manage now the employees that I had, or the contractors that I had, and the tasks that I needed help with in order to continue growing so that I can keep paying the contractors and pay myself.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you were to repeat the same process, would you be taking on people again in the same order?
I don't know. it's a little different now because now I'm focusing more on coaching versus the done for you client. So I think my needs have changed a little more. So I think an OBM or a VA was probably an early choice that I would bring on.
Yeah.
Even someone just to feel like a partner to say, I have this idea. What do you think? Should I do it or should I hold off on it? You know, more of that accountability partner, but someone who's really invested in your business because they're working for your business.
Yeah. That's interesting because I've been thinking about that, and I'm like slightly further down the line because I've been working with people probably for coming up to 2 years, and I thought the other day that I've always taken on people to replace the things that I didn't have enough time to do. And now I started thinking that from day one, maybe I should have brought the OBM on first to help me tackle the systems while it's still super early on and make us work like an efficient machine rather than tidying up things that have been in place with the same contractors in the same way for 2 years.
Yeah.
So that's just something
that's
that
true.
I was interested if I come across someone else that, you know, I was thinking, hey, maybe I should have done this earlier, because that helped me an awful lot. Like having somebody that comes and is like you're saying, they know your business. So it's not like, it's not like asking your coach or asking your mentor. They have one way of looking at it. They see your business from a distance, but sometimes you're like stuck in the weeds and you need to make a decision of, right, tool A or tool B, you know, what's going to work better. And that coach doesn't know the exact things that are happening in your business. So having somebody else to discuss that with, that makes a huge difference to me. Like,
that's helped a lot. But I think you're right in getting those systems set up early in business too, or even hiring someone for a one-time systems consultant. Like we have Tatiana on our mastermind, and hiring someone like that to help you get the processes set up before you have all the clients and all the team members, and then you're retraining and trying to start systems in the middle of working with the client. You know, I think it's really smart if someone's just starting out to get those systems in place early on.
Yeah, and review them regularly and decide like every 6 months what is no longer working for you. Like if there's something that's repeatedly causing issues, it needs to be looked at. And I don't know if it's because we're so used to bootstrapping everything, because the idea of the online business is that you can start it with very little investment. But definitely as soon as you have some money to invest, I think getting those systems organized and somebody in place to handle the systems and keep them up to date and document them and train other people so that you don't have to do it.
Yeah.
I think that would have actually been a wise thing to do. Like, that's like my one thing, thinking back like 2 years. I think I should have done that the other way around, but
right. But now you teach people, don't do it the way I did it. Do it this way instead. Yeah. So now you know.
I think that's probably a learning curve to happen. So what does Allie's typical CEO day look like?
I usually do them on Mondays. Ooh. And it involves setting up content for the week, doing some writing and reviewing what I want to post on social media or a blog or a video that I want to do, reviewing my funnels, seeing how things are converting, where I can improve, what I can switch up, and that, I mean, that's usually the full day. Between content and reviewing the marketing, that's usually like my 4-hour window.
And it probably feels like 5 minutes as well.
Yes. It can sometimes. I'm always working in the background too, though. Like if I'm out running errands with my husband and an idea comes up, I've got systems for like, I'm going to put this in the Trello board for an idea for the blog post. Or if I think of, you know, a paragraph that I want to add into a blog post, like I will write it while I'm on the fly. Yeah. So it's not that my brain doesn't think about work when I'm not at work, but I've tried to stay focused on this family time. This is work time.
And I think sometimes our brains are more at work when we're not at work. Like, I don't know, I can't have a shower without having some kind of brilliant idea. So
right. The best place for brilliant ideas.
I was like, oh, okay. So So literally this morning Natasha goes, I see you bought a new domain name. I'm like, yes, I have to add to my collection of domain names. I just have this idea.
Yeah.
And she's like, well, do you think it's really a good idea? I'm like, well, I don't know, but we'll see in like 3 months time if it still sits like a good idea. So that's the problem. Like when you have ideas, you just got to like do a little bit for it.
Yeah. Well, it's like that theme of resistance too, where if you have an idea and it's a good idea, you need to run as fast as you can towards it before you hit the resistance or the procrastination. Because it's inevitable in projects at some point you're going to come up against like, oh, maybe this is a bad idea, or maybe I should work on this instead. But if you just plow through and like run as fast as you can towards that idea, then, you know, it works out.
That's
sometimes
the only way I finish anything. I'll be super honest with you. If I get held up on that sprint, like if something stops me, it will never, and I mean literally never, get finished. So I'm laughing because Jessica left a comment to say that I'm focused in a way that so many people aren't, and you achieve more in 24 hours than some people do in a month. So she's hinting that she knows because I used to be in her mastermind. So she knows if I say I'll have this done this time tomorrow, that I will have this done this time tomorrow. I will not stop. I will not do anything else until this thing is finished.
That's great.
That is my biggest struggle right now, because I can't do it. Because I have to stop, because unfortunately the baby needs to eat and he'd like someone to play with him. So I'm like, oh no, now I have to put this down. So yeah, finishing stuff is definitely difficult.
How do you decide what's really important that you have to get done by tomorrow? Like, how do you define those tasks for you versus giving them to your team? Like, are there more things you could hire out, or are there less commitments that you can make? Because I think when you've made that promise to yourself that I do what I say I will do, and I will always show up for myself and keep promises to myself, then you have to. So it's more of deciding what promises you're willing to make.
Yeah.
Where if you know the baby needs attention and needs to eat and, you know, be rocked and fed and every day, then you just have to be realistic. And again, back to giving yourself grace and know that this is a season of life, and maybe you pull back for a little bit and trust your team to do more, or figure out how much you can get done in the amount of time that you want to work.
Yeah, and I think that's
or
just
that you have available.
The whole mantra of like this season in life is it will pass. Like, since I swear that the day since this baby was born, I have never said a sentence in my head more often than this too shall pass.
Yeah.
Eventually he will stop doing this. So that's like the theme right now. So I think it's just sometimes how we wire. Like when I feel enthusiastic about something, I can just storm ahead. And if I have to first of all free someone else from something and then give them a bunch of instructions and blah, 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 when I'm on a roll, I will have this done by that point. So I'm literally like, yeah, I'm just going to bang this out and it'll be done. And I don't have to look at it again. I can like put it out to the world.
Yeah.
So that's just really something.
Well, and I think knowing what are the tasks that are most important to drive your business forward? Like, is this actually going to increase your bottom line, or is this just a project that your brain is keeping you busy with?
Yeah, and it's actually, sometimes it just sidetracks us, right? It just takes our attention away from the things that we're supposed to be doing. Like,
right.
It's like almost, ideas can be like another form of resistance. It's like, I'm just going to get you excited about something completely different. And you're like, yeah, let's just roll with it. And that's why it's like you said, you need someone to say, you know, stop. Just like, can we tackle this another time? So,
right. And being really clear on what it is you want to do. You know, if you want to show up as an agency, what tasks or what has worked in the past, and do more of that instead of always trying to do other things. I read something the other day that was equating a lot of people's marketing to like throwing something over a wall and hoping that somebody will catch it. So like if we're on one side of the wall, the client's on the other side of the wall, we're just like pitching stuff over the wall all the time. Where if you know someone's there, like you can communicate with them and actually figure out how to like get it into their hands instead of just like throwing it and hoping it'll like hit somebody in the head, or maybe they'll catch it, or you know. So it always comes back to intentionality for me, like being intentional in how I reach clients and having those systems in place where you know, like Russell said in a lot of his things, you need one funnel to make $1 million. So as long as you have one funnel that's operating well, you don't need to put all the effort and time into all the other ones. And he was even saying in business, if you have multiple businesses, like you're never going to be able to get all 3 businesses to the $1 million level at the same time, because one's always going to take more precedence.
Yeah,
so
it's focus, right?
Yeah, everything is about focus and about deciding what you want it to look like and what tasks and what kind of funnel and how many clients it's going to take to get there, and then just being really strict with yourself too, of like, no, I have the blinders on. I'm going to only work on this.
And I think it was really interesting because I watched I don't know if you went to actually go and see it, but the Ladyboss webinar, did you watch that one?
Yes.
I loved it.
Yeah.
Not my particular area of interest or anything of the sort. I've never seen her products before. I literally know barely anything about her apart from what I got off the funnel hacking notes. That's like the first time I'd even properly paid attention to them. I've been very boring when it comes to building my business because somebody told me early on to not compare myself to other people and to do my thing. So I very much went into it like this, looking for my people and what I want to do. And that's worked. But now people are like, well, why don't you funnel hack someone? Why don't you do your Dream 100? Why don't you? I'm like, I don't even know half of these people. I know the people that I have a personal relationship with, or, you know, there's the odd person I hear about, but I don't know who that person is, and that person, and that person, and everything that they do, because I haven't got any personal relationship with them. So to me, you know, that didn't help. And so I was watching the Ladyboss webinar, and to look at everything in so much detail and think about, right, this one funnel thing is the absolute truth. Like, stick with this one thing and don't give up. Like, it doesn't work when you start out with it. And we've done plenty of things, built plenty of pages that weren't converting, but stick with it. Like, figure out what the problem is and fix it. Don't just, when you hit one problem, go, oh, well, you know, webinars don't work, and like throw everything out the window. Like, let's not do that. Like, let's give ourselves a chance to actually fix it rather than throwing it all out.
You know, there are only so many certain elements. It's like the science experiments in 7th grade, where you have the control and you have the things that you change. So you can make any funnel work. You just have to test the different areas and figure out where it's broken or where it's leaking. Yeah. And where you can plug up the holes or the issues in the funnel. But don't ever give up. It's always a process. Like, that's why I named my business Prosperity Lab, because like prosperity as a way of life. Thank you. Prosperity, like, is a frame of mind. It's a lifestyle, but lab as in like, it's a science experiment. Like, you don't know if it might work one day, but then, you know, your 3 kids might get sick and can't work for a week. You might be out of daycare for a week. I may have had that experience. So just because something's in balance one day, I mean, it could be completely different the next morning. Yeah. So it's just being flexible and giving yourself room.
And it's taking each day
to evolve.
Sometimes, sometimes you have to forget yesterday. Like, last night I got up at 3 a.m. That was not by choice. So by the time lunchtime came around, I'm a bit like a zombie, and I'm thinking like, right, I'm not going to achieve the greatest things today. That's okay. Come again tomorrow.
Always choose the nap.
Oh God.
Nap work.
But it's just literally, I've done it too many times. Like, just after the baby was born, because I worked the day after. They wouldn't let me out the hospital the same day, so I didn't work that day because I didn't have my laptop with me, so I was just stopped from doing so. But I worked the day after I went home. But within about a week, I realized that if you feel like you might need a nap, always choose the nap, because you are not producing anything productive until you've actually gotten the nap in. So that's just about survival at that point. So I'm just
it's the same of like working late at night. There comes a point at night where your brain is just done, where you're not producing anything of content, and at that point you're better off going to bed and getting up at 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. depending on what you need to get done.
If that floats your boat, definitely get up at 3 a.m.
You know, everybody's got to do what works for them, but if you're up against a point where you're just not functioning anymore, then
there's no
choose
point.
the sleep.
Yeah. Choose the sleep or choose whatever other self-care you need to do right now. Like sometimes it's not sleep. I know plenty of people that have said from the beginning, I can't nap when the baby naps. That's not me. That's not my person. I can't nap in the day. It makes me feel all ugh. So if that's not working for you, then have a bath. Like read a book, do something else, go for a walk.
Yeah.
So just don't try and push beyond the point when you can't handle it anymore.
Right. And I think that's where I was before when I came to the whole breaking point of I can't work like this anymore. It was just not healthy. No. So realizing that's where my brain goes, like I get anxiety, I get weird nervous system symptoms like vertigo and tingling, and like my body starts falling apart when I work too hard. So just realizing that about myself and knowing that I will be miserable if I don't keep these boundaries, and knowing, okay, then I need to reverse engineer how to make my life look the way I want it to look.
Cool. Right. We've been talking for an hour. That means...
Felt like 5 minutes.
I know, right? I could be... That's why I'm saying I'm having so much fun learning all these different ways of looking at things that I'm like, I could be doing this all day, every day, which probably tells me something about life in general and that I probably should be doing more of it. But...
yeah. Need a mindset coach.
Oh dear. It was like, I'll teach people about all the stuff that I should be doing better at.
Yeah.
That's what I sometimes feel like. You should have more balance. Meanwhile, I'm like, woo, like a party at my house.
It's fun.
If people want to find out more about you, where do they go? And I think you bought a freebie as well that I can link out to people, right? Is that ready?
Yep. So prosperity, that's 3 a.m. It's ready. So prosperitylab.com is my website.
Yeah.
I also have alliebjerk.com, which is more of a personal brand website. And then I can paste the link to my free masterclass presentation after we get off.
Awesome. And what's that one about? Tell us a little bit about it. Why should we go? Why should we look at it?
It is all about the 3 secrets you need to know to have an expert business. So if you're someone that's looking into getting more into like showing up as a leader or a teacher in your industry, this has the 3 secrets that will help you get there.
Awesome. I think there just comes a time when done for you gets very exhausting, and I think there's plenty of people that then reach the point where they're wanting to make that change, but like where do you start? So
right. And it's some of the stuff that we talked about today, but it's more about like how to set up a value ladder, how to figure out what type of sales system to create, and then how to run advertising that pays for itself. Those are my 3 secrets.
We like those ones.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So I'll paste this into comments.
Yeah. And then what I'll do is once it's up on the blog, I'll put all the links underneath it as well, and it'll go on YouTube tomorrow. Okay. And then I just keep putting the links at the bottom so that people can go and check it out from wherever they're arriving here. One last question. Your number 1 top tip, something that everyone should go and do that wants to work less and be present more. Your top thing that you think is going to make the biggest difference.
Write it down.
Yeah.
I think start journaling and figuring out, just journal as if you're yourself in a year. So journal and say, I love that I can sit by my lake house and drink coffee and play with my kids until 10 a.m. when I start taking client calls. And then I'm on client calls until 2. And then I go to the gym or I go on an adventure with the kids. Like you just start writing it down as ideally as you can. Like if I had my dream life, this is what I'd be saying to myself right now, or this is what I would be doing. So then your brain's going to start figuring out ways to actually make those dreams a reality and help you figure out what you need to do to balance it, or, work the amount of hours you want to work, or spend the amount of time with your family, or traveling. If you want to travel, write that down. So I think just journaling and doing it as often as you can to figure out what it actually is, because if you don't know what you want, you're never going to get it.
No, I agree with that. That was our biggest discussion at the weekend, and I was talking to Natasha about that too. if you don't know where you're going, you are just always going to remain stuck. Oh, there we go again. Well,
you're losing
kind
it.
of finished anyway, so I'll say bye to everyone. Thanks, Ali, for coming on. Thanks for talking to all of us and getting us encouraged to not be working so much and taking a little bit better care of us.
My pleasure.
And then I'll give you a shout once the article's published and it's up on YouTube, and you can share it out with more people too that need to hear this.
Awesome.
I always think with everything we're doing every week, there's somebody that needs to hear this right now, so I try and get it to as many people as
Love
possible.
That.
And then as far as what's on next week, we're talking to Sarah Shuttle, and there's a change of day. We're going to be doing it on Tuesday next week because my awesome nanny would like a few days off. So we're meeting on Tuesday, same time, I think, 1 p.m. UK time, so 8 a.m. Eastern. And we're talking about balancing your business with your mental health. So, and this comes into pretty much what we were seeing right now, but we need to look after ourselves, because if we don't look after ourselves, nobody else is going to do it. So that's what we're going to be talking about next week. So how can we build a business that supports our mental health, and we have the chance to actually take care of ourselves. So if you want to join us for that,
great.
Come around next week, Tuesday. So that's it from us. Bye, everyone. Hope you have a lovely, productive day. And
bye.
I'll share out all the links afterwards. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.